Hey, shalom, shalom from your Dutch Uncle John, here to tell you what it is in God Math Part 6. Specifically, we're going to talk about the number 153 that shows up in John 21, the new creation. So let's just start reading there. By the way, this new creation, a little bit, we could do a whole talk on that. It's so cool. But you're going to see a few hints of that here in John 21, the new creation versus the original creation in Genesis 1:1. These are going to be tied together. Very cool. Okay, John 21, verse 1. It says, "Later, by the Sea of Tiberias, Jesus again revealed himself to the disciples. He made himself known in this way. Simon Peter, Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples were together." Let's just stop there for a second and just point out, this is, I think, is the third time that Yeshua, Jesus, revealed himself to his disciples after the resurrection. And I think it's interesting also that 7 disciples were together. Simon, Thomas, Nathanael, sons of Zebedee were 2, and then 2 other disciples. Adds up to 7 fishermen. Very nice. Verse 3, Simon Peter told them, "I am going fishing." "We will go with you," they said. So they went out and got into the boat, but caught nothing that night. Okay, you know what? This reminds me, think of this. They're on a boat in the middle of a lake at night. It's dark. It's watery, it's formless and void. This reminds me of Genesis 1:2. Now the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Dark, watery, formless and void. Interesting. Verse 4, early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not recognize that it was Jesus. When did this happen? Early in the morning. This reminds me of Genesis 1:3, and God said, "Let light be," and light was. Boom. Right? That's just a beautiful picture there. And who was on the shore early in the morning? It was Yeshua. John 8:12 says, "Then Yeshua again spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Very nice. It's recreating Genesis 1:1. Very nice. Verse 5, so he called out to them, "Children, do you have any fish?" "No," they answered. He told them, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast it there, and they were unable to haul it in because of the great number of fish. It's interesting, he's telling them to cast the net on the right side of the boat. Okay, remember they've gone all night without catching anything. And when I think of the right side, biblically, let's look at a couple examples. Psalm 110 is one of the most famous. Verse 1, the Lord said to my Lord, "Sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet." So it's a place of honor on the right side. Correct? The word right, by the way, is yamin. We might remember this whenever Rachel gave birth to the last child, and she ended up dying in childbirth, and she said, let's call him Ben-Oni, son of my sorrow, I think. And Jacob said, no, he's Ben-Yamin, son of my right hand. Okay, Yamin. The opposite is left. Left is Samol. Okay, and you'll see that here in Ecclesiastes 10:2 says, "A wise man's heart inclines to the right, but the heart of a fool to the left." So there, I mean, he's just out and out saying it there. The right is the preferred side. So he's asking the apostles to cast the net over onto the right side of the boat. So if, just on a little side note, if the right side is the good, godly, honored side, and then the left is the not so good, it's the bad side, I would guess. That applies politically in the United States as well, maybe worldwide. So, I would associate the left with judgment and condemnation, because that's all you hear from the left today. And that may even apply to when we go out witnessing. If we go out witnessing and we are preaching judgment and condemnation, which, by the way, is in the Bible, and we must stick to our roots, okay, and believe and preach it, but in a way that doesn't turn people away. Versus the right side is maybe going about our witnessing with preaching love and mercy, something that is much more appealing and will probably catch many, many more fish, as happened here, right? This might be a nice prophetic picture, this right side and the left side of the boat. And maybe the last 2,000 years we've spent, it's been the long night, and a lot of Christianity has been preaching doom and gloom and hell and brimstone and fire, and it turns a lot of people off. We don't want people to choose God because they're afraid of hell. We want them to choose God because they want to go to heaven, and they want to see God, and they want to be with God. It's the love and mercy that attracts them, not to be running from something else. Both apply in our decision, but we should preach love and mercy, I believe. And God uses both right and left when He teaches us. Maybe the best verse to cover this is James 2:13 in the Brit Hadashah, New Testament. It says, "For judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who has not been merciful. Mercy triumphs over judgment." There, that settles it. In fact, look at the Ark of the Covenant. What sits above the Ark of the Covenant? The mercy seat. What is in the Ark of the Covenant? The tablets. So there's your judgment inside. Here's the law. Here's the law. It's written in stone. But what's above the law? Mercy. Yeah. How does he think of this stuff? So cool. Okay. John 21:11. It says, Simon Peter went up and drew the net to land, full of large fish, 153. And although there were so many, the net was not torn. Wow. Okay, so there's 153 fish in a net. Who counted them? And why did they count them? That's a lot of fish to just sit and count one at a time to know exactly how many there were. Yeah. And then, to be put in the scripture, there must be a reason. So what is the reason there were 153, and God pointed that out to us in this book? Now, a lot of speculation has come out on this, and there's lots of different thoughts as to what it could be. I think Jerome, like an early church father or something, he said that the 153 represented the number of fish, or different fish, in the Sea of Galilee or on the planet. I'm not sure which, knowing at the time how many there were. No, I don't think that's it. I don't know. I mean, sure. I'm not sure anybody today knows exactly how many different fish are in the Sea of Galilee. I mean, that's something that's a fingerprint of God that you really can't do anything with, because we really don't know how many fish are in the Sea of Galilee. And we can't say, look, 153. Wow, how cool is that, God? Because we don't know. And the average person and any person won't be able to count every different type. Okay? I've heard people claim that that was the number of countries on earth at the time. Again, I don't know that. I can't go back and count them. And it's not a very impressive thing if that is the reason. Okay? But it is nice to know that if they are all the different species, that's a pretty picture of that there's room in the church for every race, every species of man. I guess we're just one species, but you understand, all the different races. Okay. This number 153 is only mentioned in the Gospel of John. It is nowhere else in the Bible. It does show up one other time. So what happens here is these apostles are Jesus's. They met him. They traveled with him. They observed him. They watched him. They saw him crucified, buried, resurrected. He did show up 2 other times to them, and now he's gone. And so, okay, guys, what do we do? And it's kind of like Peter is like, you know what? Okay, that was fun. That was great. That was great. But I guess I'll go back to my old job of being a fisherman. And then the other disciples decided to go with him. Okay? And they go all night without catching. This miracle reminds me of back in Luke 5. It's an early time when Jesus told them to let down the nets. Okay? Let's just begin and read. It's verse 1 of chapter 5 of Luke. On one occasion, while Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, okay, that's the lake, that's the Sea of Galilee, right? That's just another name for it. The Kinneret is what they call it now, the Jews. On one occasion, while Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, with the crowd pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw 2 boats at the edge of the lake. The fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Jesus got into the boat belonging to Simon and asked him to put out a little from shore. And sitting down, he taught the people from the boat. When Jesus had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down your nets for a catch." "Master," Simon replied, "we have worked hard all night without catching anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." Verse 6. When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to tear. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees. "Go away from me, Lord," he said, "for I am a sinful man." He and his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were his partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. "Do not be afraid," Jesus said to Simon. "From now on you will catch men." And when they had brought their boats ashore, they left everything and followed him. Okay, so the disciples were going to go back to their old jobs, and now this miracle of 153 fish, I think that reminded them of that earlier time where they had all those fish and the nets were breaking and they were out all night not catching anything, and then all the fish are caught with the nets breaking. Okay, and it kind of reminded them, you know, Jesus was involved with both of those, and he told us we're going to be catching men. We don't need to go back to our old jobs. We still have our job. We are employed by God. Okay? And we are fishers of men. I think that first instance, they were reminded of that. Okay, that, yeah, Jesus and catching fish, they go together. I mentioned there that 153 does show up one other place in the Bible, kind of. In 2 Chronicles 2:17, it says Solomon counted all the foreigners who were in the land of Israel, following the census which his father David had taken, and 153,600 were found. So it's not exactly, there is the 153 in order. It is interesting here that they are, it was the number of foreigners who were in the land of Israel. Wow, that's a lot of foreigners. I know a lot of them were there at that time. You know, the people who were bringing the cedars from Lebanon for the building of the temple, and maybe they're dressing out these logs, and a lot of workers, I would think, coming in. But it's a nice picture that they're foreigners associated with 153, because a lot of people have assumed by throwing the net to the right side of the boat in John 21, it's the right side is maybe toward the church, the new covenant, okay? And could be, that would be the Gentile, the church, right? It's going to bring in those fish for a while until we get to the end of days, when the Jews have their scales removed from their eyes and they recognize Yeshua as their Messiah. That's just my thinking. Okay. So 153, what specialness has it? I will tell you one thing. It's 3 times 3 times 17, if you break down it into its prime factors. And it is also a triangle number, a perfect triangle number. And what happens here is you just start with 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way up through 17. And notice that's how many rows are in this triangle, right? The first row has 1, then 2, then 3. The last row has 17. There's 153 total dots. Mathematically, it's written in that kind of a formula form. Also, 153 is an Armstrong number, which means that the sum of the digits raised to the power of 3 will equal the number itself. For example, 153, the digits are 1, 5, and 3. If you cube each one, right, 1 cubed is 1, 5 cubed is 125, 3 cubed is 27, and if you add those together, you get 153 back at the original number. Very clever that it does that. Very few numbers do. There's also a cool thing that if you take any number that is a multiple of 3, and I'm just going to grab 75 because I know that's divided by 3 is 25. So, and if you apply that rule where you're cubing the digits, so 75 is 7 cubed plus 5 cubed, which is 343 plus 125 equals 468. And then we're going to continue and do it again. 4, 6, and 8 cubed. Add those together, you get 792. So now we're going to cube 7 and 9 and 2. And add those together, we get 1080. We're going to cube each of those digits, and we get 513. And now we cube 5 and 1 and 3, and we end up with 153. Any number that is a multiple of 3, if you do this to it, it will eventually end up at 153. That's an interesting trait, I guess. Now, let's look at some gematria stuff. Remember, gematria is the Hebrew letters each have a value. They run 1 through 10, and then 10 through 100, and then 100 through 400. Okay? And we also have, besides gematria values, we have the ordinate values. The ordinate values are just, where are they in the alphabet, from 1 to 22. Okay? So if we apply these gematria and or ordinate, depending on which verse we're going to look at here. Let's go to Ezekiel 47:10. We'll have a little drinkage first. Today, Dada, cherry. Okay, delicious. Ezekiel 47:10, it says, fishermen will stand by the shore from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. They will spread their nets to catch fish of many kinds, like the fish of the great sea. Here it is in Hebrew. Let me just point out here, it says from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. That word, En, I think you should know what that is. And we see it back in Genesis 16:7. It says, and the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. Okay, so that's the word Ayin. Ayin is a spring. Got it? And that's what we're seeing here in this verse. En-Gedi is the spring of Gedi, all the way down to En-Eglaim, the spring of Eglaim. Okay? So the word for spring in Hebrew is Ain. That's interesting because the word for eye is also Ain. We've talked about this in previous videos. So this is going to reveal something about God's thinking, because these two words are connected and they're both the same pronunciation, or the same spelling. There might be a little different pronunciation. Remember, I'm not the Hebrew pronunciation king. Ein, I, and spring, what do they have in common? Water comes out of both of them. Okay? Very clever, God, how you associate things and put the Hebrew thinking is different than the Western thinking, because your words associate differently than a lot of times our letters and our words have no meaning, and we have no gematria as another source of explanation of something. Anyway, also, we said water flows from both of these. The word fountain in Hebrew is mayin. What's the mem in front? Mem represents water. So it's a water spring. See how it all kind of ties together? All right, back to the verse. We're going from En-Gedi until En-Eglaim. En-Gedi is down by the Dead Sea. It's on the northern shores of the Dead Sea, or the northwest shore. En-Eglaim, I've looked it up. I can't find, and I think scholars aren't sure where it was or is. I would assume, because we're talking about fishermen catching fish, it's going to probably be on the south side of the Dead Sea. It would make sense. The interesting thing is that they're going to be fishing in the Dead Sea, which, if you've been down there, there ain't nothing. Okay, there ain't nothing living in that sea. It is dead. And but someday, our God, who loves to bring things that are dead back to life, like the Hebrew people and the Hebrew language and his son Yeshua, and he's going to revive the Dead Sea. Very cool. Okay, so now we kind of know where those two are, or logically we think they are. That phrase, from En-Gedi until En-Eglaim, contains 17 letters. That's kind of interesting, because we just said that 17 ties in with 153, right? And look, it's from En-Gedi. The word Gedi, it's a Gimel, Dalet, Yod, 3, 4, and 10 adds up to 17. There, it's very clever. And, oh my goodness, look at Eglaim. It adds up, Ayin is 70, Gimel 3, Lamed 30, Yod 10, Mem 40, adds up to 153. Wow. What are the chances of that? You know? And we know, remember, 153 is 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way up to 17, the sum of all the numbers from 1 to 17. If I take that whole verse, the whole chapter here, here's the first 10 verses of Ezekiel 47 in Hebrew, and I'm going to go down to the 153rd word. It's circled there. It's Gedi. It's Gedi. That's kind of cool, okay? Which is right in the phrase, from En-Gedi to En-Galim. The earliest reference to 153 and a new creation is way back in Genesis 1:1. What? Well, we've covered Genesis 1:1 forwards, backwards, upside down. We have ripped that verse apart, and it keeps giving and giving and giving. It's the verse that just keeps giving. But remember how it begins. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et haaretz. The first two words, Bereshit bara. In beginning, created. Third word, Elohim, God. They put the verb and the noun, they switch those. Okay? So the first word is Bereshit. Kind of. Bereshit means in beginning. The ba in front is a prefix, in. And Reshit is actually the first word. Reshit is beginning, kind of first fruits, the first of things. So we could divide it like this, ba, Reshit, bara, which the ba in front is a single letter, and then Reshit is 5 letters, and then bara is 3 letters. So here at the first creation, I have 153 starts it. So now in John 21, we're looking at the new creation, and 153 is there. I don't know what to do with that. You now have it, though. Okay? Very cool. The number of chapters in the first 4 books of the Torah. And remember, the 5th book is Deuteronomy, which is the second law. It's a repeat of the giving of the law. So a lot of what is covered in the Torah is in the first 4 books. And there are 50 chapters in Genesis, 40 in Exodus, 27 in Leviticus, 36 in Numbers, and 153 books or chapters total in the first 4 books. Take a look here at Isaiah 48:17. Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, I am the Lord your God, who teaches you to profit, who leads you by the way you should go. That I am the Lord your God, Ani Yahweh Eloheka. Notice it ends in the final cough. That final cough was, is that the right way? How's a cough look? There. Okay. Does that look right? Anyway, it's your cough. Eloheka, your God. If I put the gematria values in for that, 153. Okay, so we have God tying in to 153. Okay, so we're going to park that up here on top of this paper, this slide. Ani Yahweh Eloheka, 153. I am the Lord your God. Look in Exodus 31, the first 5 verses. It says, and actually we're going to look in 31, 32, all the way through the next 8 or 9 chapters. Then Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, see, I have called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah. And I have filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom, in understanding, in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to design artistic works, to work in gold, in silver and bronze, in cutting jewels for settings, in carving wood, and to work in all manner of workmanship. Okay, this guy, Bezalel, he's like the most famous guy I've never heard of. You know, but when I started studying this, you find out this guy, the Lord told Moses, I'm picking Bezalel to be in charge of building this tabernacle. So it's unbelievable all the stuff that this guy did. Look here in Exodus 35:30. Here's where Moses reports to the sons of Israel, see, the Lord is called by names, Bezalel. And then you can go down and read through Exodus 36:1, and Bezalel and Aholiab, and every skillful person in whom the Lord has put skill and understanding to know how to perform all the work in the construction of the sanctuary, shall perform in accordance with all that the Lord has commanded. Exodus 37:1, Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood. 38:22, Bezalel, son of Uri, made everything that the Lord had commanded. If you read through the details, because they'll use his name sometimes, Bezalel, and sometimes the next paragraph then says, and he, so we're still referring to him, but using a pronoun. But he created the table of showbread, the altar, the curtains. He did embroidery on the curtains. I mean, he was responsible for the ephod that the priest wore, okay, with the jewels in it. So he was an extremely important guy. His name, Bezalel, the B in front, like in Bereshit, is in. And then you have Tsel. Tsel is like the shadow of something. Remember Tsel, when God made, God said, let us make man in our image, Betsel Menu, in our image, and then Kidmatenu, to our likeness. There's a difference between Betselmenu and Kidmatenu. Betsel, that cell is, we're in God's shadow. Kidam Metenu, Dam is blood. We are in the physical likeness, okay? So when he said, let us make man in God's image and likeness, those are two different words in Hebrew. In English, image and likeness sounds the same, but we are made in God's physical, Kidmatenu, and spiritual shadow, Betsel Menu. So this guy, Bezalel, has that word self, shadow in it. So, and then El at the end is God. So Bezalel in the shadow of God. And he was in the shadow of God. He was, whatever God wanted and directed him to make, he made it. You put in the gematria for this fellow's name, and it adds up to 153. Nice to see. Back in Genesis 6:4, it says, Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men of old, men of renown. Okay, that phrase, Bani Ha-Elohim, the sons of God, there it is, right out of the Bible, Bani Ha-Elohim, put in the gematria value, and that adds up to 153. Wow, so that's cool. We have I am the Lord your God is 153, and the sons of God are 153. Okay? Okay, let's look at 1 Samuel 10:5. It says, after that you shall come to the hill of God where the Philistine garrison is. And it will happen when you have come there to the city that you will meet a group of prophets coming down from the high place with a stringed instrument, a tambourine, a flute, and a harp before them. And they will be prophesying. That phrase, group of prophets, here it is, Chavel Nevi'im. Remember, Nevi is prophet, and it's masculine. Put an im on the end, it's plural, masculine plural. The value of group of prophets, 153. So now we have, wow, I am the Lord your God, the sons of God, and the group of prophets, all equal 153. And it doesn't end there. 1 Chronicles 15:15. And the sons of the Levites bear the ark of God as God commanded, according to the word of Yahweh, on their shoulder with staves above them. That phrase, sons of the Levites, Beni ha-Leviim, adds up to 153. Wow. So now, sons of God, group of prophets, sons of the Levites, that's kind of cool, because you got the prophets, the sons of the Levites, those are your priests. Sons of God are kings. You got prophets, priests, and kings. And in Deuteronomy 1:28, it says, where can we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, the people are greater and taller than we. The cities are great and fortified up to the heaven. Moreover, we have seen the sons of Anakim there. This is whenever they sent the spies in to check on the promised land. And it says that there are great people in there. That phrase, Am Gadol, great people, adds up to 153. And I'm guessing all these are great people, right? The sons of God, the group of prophets, and the sons of Levites are all great prophets, and all of them equal 153. Very clever. I don't know how all this ties in. Anyway. Look in 2 Kings 1, starting in verse 9. This is when the king of Israel sent for Elijah because Elijah was causing him a lot of problems. And he sent 50 soldiers and the captain to go and get him. And then the king sent to him a captain of 50 with his 50, and he went up, and behold, he was sitting on top of the hill. And he said to him, O man of God, the king says, come down. Elijah replied to the captain of 50, if I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and consume you and your 50. Then fire came down from heaven and consumed him and his 50. All right. Verse 11. So he again, the king, sent another captain of 50 with his 50. And he said to him, O man of God, thus says the king, come down quickly. Elijah replied to them, if I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and consume you and your 50. Then the fire of God came down from heaven and consumed him with his 50. So he again sent a captain of a third 50 with his 50. When the third captain of 50 went up, he came and bowed down on his knees before Elijah and begged him and said to him, O man of God, please let my life and the lives of these 50 servants of yours be precious in your sight. Behold, fire came down from heaven and consumed the first 2 captains of 50 with their 50s, but now let my life be precious in your sight. The angel of the Lord said to Elijah, go down with him. Do not be afraid of him. So he arose and went down with him to the king. Okay, that's a lot of story there, but look what happened. You had the first group of 51, right? A captain, that's one, and his 50. And then they get burned up. And the second group, 51, they get burned up. And then you have a third group that didn't get burned up. The total of all 3 is 153. That's another place that number is hidden here. And this one actually has a prophetic significance, because if you look in Zechariah 13, starting in verse 7, it says, awake, sword, against my shepherd, and against the man, my associate, declares the Lord of armies. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered, and I will turn my hand against the little ones. And it will come about in all the land, declares the Lord, that 2 parts in it will be cut off and perish, but the third will be left in it. Wow, what a prophecy. And this is a prophecy for end of days, that in the land, remember the land is Israel, the seas are the nations. So in the land it will come about that 2 parts will be cut off and perish, but 1/3 will be left in it. So there is going to be coming, at least what the Bible says, that some disaster is going to come. It's going to wipe out 2/3 of the people in the land, and 1/3 will survive. Well, this thing that happened with Elijah, notice 2/3 got destroyed and 1/3 didn't. Okay? The captain and 50 twice got cut off and perished, and the other time he was left in it, or they were left in it. Okay, Exodus 2 verse 10. This is about Moses. The child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him Moshe, and said, because I drew him out of the water. Moses has a nickname amongst the Jews. He is the Dag Gadol. Gadol is great. Okay? And Dag is the Hebrew word for fish. And they have gematria values. Isn't that interesting? The Hebrew word for dog, no, the Hebrew word for fish is dog. Yeah. Okay? And I recently bought a Chinese Jewish seafood cookbook. 101 Ways to Walk Your Dog. I'll give you a minute on that one. Okay, if you put the gematria in for Dag Gadol, it adds up to 50. 50 represents noon, the gematria, right? Noon, remember noon? Noon, it's the N sound. Its ancient picture is a fish or a sperm. So we're getting a fish tie-in here with Moses, okay? And who follows Moses? When Moses died, remember Moses didn't get to go into the promised land. It was Joshua, son of Nun. Joshua, it's the same name as Yeshua, okay? In fact, there's places in the Bible where they're spelled the same. Yeshua, son of Nun, son of life, okay? He was the servant and spiritual son of Moses. And we know Jesus, he also followed Moses. Joshua followed him physically. Yeshua, Jesus, followed Moses spiritually. And that's not a surprise. Remember, Deuteronomy 18:18 says, God tells Moses, I will raise up a prophet from among their countrymen like you. God here is talking to Moses. And I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. So it's expected that whoever follows Moses, this Messiah is going to be like Moses. And if Moses is the Dag Gadol, the big fish, then Yeshua should have some big or bigger fish tie-in. And there is a big fish tie-in with Yeshua. One, remember the ichthys. That's the Greek word for fish. Okay? And the ichthys is tied in with Yeshua. You've seen the Jesus fish, right? And those, they've taken the letters of that and made an anagram. The ichthys, the iota is Yeshua, or Eusus. Okay? The chi is Christos. The theta is Theo, gods. Upsilon is Eos, son. And sigma is Soter, Savior. So Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. So that's a nice tie-in with fish and Jesus. I know in Mark 1:16, this is where I think Jesus was going along the Sea of Galilee, and he saw Simon and Peter, the brother of Simon, casting a net in the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. So here's Yeshua now starting his ministry and employing fishers of men. And so it's not surprising in John 21 that this 153 fish Because when you're making these fishers of men, they're becoming sons of God, right? The men that you capture. And remember, sons of God, the B'nai Ha-Elohim, we showed you that earlier, added up to 153. So there's a nice tie-in here in John 21 with 153 representing the sons of God, those who were being captured. And there's that nice tie-in with Yeshua Jesus also, because he definitely qualifies in the category of sons of God, right? Yeshua, right? Yeshua not only catches the bus in this category, Yeshua is the bus. John 21:8, it says, "But the other disciples came in the little boat, for they were not far from land, but about 200 cubits, dragging the net with fish." That phrase, the net, in Greek, adds up to 1,224. There's the Greek isopsephy. Remember, isopsephy is the Greek equivalent of gematria. So you can plug those in. And 1224 is 8 times 153. Nice. All right. And why 8? I don't know. But in John 21, here's John 21, the word fish is mentioned 8 times. Might be a tie-in. Luke, when we talked about the Luke 5 pulling in of the fish, look at in verse 6, it said, "When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to tear." And I notice in John 21:11, Simon Peter went up and drew the net to land, full of large fish, 153, and although there were so many, the nets were not torn. So they made a point to tell us on the first outing, when he said pull in the nets tore, and here they didn't tear. And I think at the beginning, when he told them to pull in, he was showing them the miracle, like, look, you're going to be so overwhelmed with fish that the nets are going to be breaking. That's how, to get their attention. Now he's got their attention. They've lived with him for 3 years and a half, and they've seen his message, and they understand his message. And now, when you're pulling in these large numbers of fish, the nets will not break, because you are assuming the role that I'm giving you, fishers of men. I'm not giving you a job that's going to have nets torn and people lost. No, all who come to me weary and heavy laden, he will be there for them. Very nice picture here with the nets involved, okay, and fishing. All right. What was the saying about fishing? Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. And teach a man a fish and he'll sit in a boat and drink beer all day. Okay, the Hebrew word for fishes. Here it is. You see it in Luke 9:13. This is when he's feeding the multitudes. He said to them, you give them something to eat. But they said, we have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fishes, unless perhaps we go and buy food for all these people. That word fishes, ichthys, adds up to 1,224, which is, again, 8 times 153. Nice picture there. Remember, in the Hebrew, there are some extra rules with gematria. Remember, there's some the 5 Sophite forms, the last letters, they have their own values. There's another gematria where you drop all the zeros, okay, from any of the numbers. Isopsephy also has different types. You have your basic isopsephy, and then you have another one here where, for some reason, and I don't understand Greek, and I don't know, I just don't know, some of the zeros get dropped. So I'm not a master at Greek or this form of isopsephy, But if you do employ this form of isopsephy, look what happens in John 21:11. Simon Peter went up and drew the net. Here's net, and it adds up to 161. To land, there's land, adds up to 61. Full of large, adds up to 209. Fish, adds up to 193. These are words that are right in a row here in this verse. That adds up to 624. 624 doesn't do anything to me, doesn't mean anything. But what's next? Full of large fish, 153. So if I just physically add 153 to that, I end up with 777, which is a nice God number, right? It's 7 times 111. There's a Trinity involved. The 777, his perfection, Father, Son, Spirit. It's just a really very godly number. Okay. Another aspect of 153 is if you have a radius of unit 1, okay, and you add another, or if you have a circle, I'm sorry, with radius 1 unit, and you add another circle such that the same size circle goes through the center of the first circle, all right? When you do that, the intersecting circles form the ichthus, the Jesus fish. And mathematically, if you take the width and divide it by the height of this Jesus fish, or any Jesus fish, it will come out to the square root of 3. All right, so why are you telling this? Square root of 3, by the way, is irrational. It goes on and on and on, never ends, never repeats. And it starts out 1.73205. Okay, and you can't make a real fraction that will give you that, but you can make a fraction that will make it close. And the fraction that we can make that gets it close is 265 width divided by 153 height. And that gives you 1.73202, which, if you notice, these two are very close, up to 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal points. So 153 again is tied in with fish and mathematics. Okay, the letter ayin has a fish tie-in. Excuse me. It is the 16th letter of the alphabet. Ayin is spelled ayin, yod, noon. And didn't we just talk about Ayin, like Ayin Gedi and Ayin Eglaim, right? It's the spring, okay? The letters Ayin, Yod, Noon, that's how you spell it. Ayin represents I, we said, right? To see, I, Ayin. Yod is Yahweh, see, Yah. And Noon is... And Yahweh, by the way, is Yeshua, right? Yud He Vav He. The hand reveals, the nail reveals. That's Yeshua. See Yeshua's ayin is fish. See Yeshua's fish. Wow, that's a cool tie-in. I don't know why 70. 70 is the gematria of ayin. And I know Yeshua has 153 fish in John 21. And ayin, the letter ayin spelled out is see Yeshua's fish. How? Okay, is there a tie-in with 70 and 153? Let me think. Oh yeah, 153 is 37 times 70. Yeah, look here. If you take the phrase 153 in Greek, and I put in the isopsephy values, there they are, it adds up to 2590. The phrase 153 in Greek adds up to 2590. And 2590 is 37 times 70. So 153 equals 37 times 70. And there's your 37, God's fingerprint number. right? Very cool. Oh, and by the way, 153 also is 8 times 137. 8, remember, was the number of fish, the number of times fish is mentioned in John 21. If we write 153 in Hebrew, put in the gematria, not the isopsophy, this is Hebrew now, adds up to 1096, and 1096 is 8 times 137. Remember, 37 is God's number. 137, we did a whole video on that in God Math 1, I think. Okay, amazing. Okay, let me give you one more here before we go. Let's look at the people that Jesus personally blessed in the 4 Gospels. Okay, we can start in Matthew. I've gone and listed them here. There were 23 occasions where Yeshua came in contact with someone and did something to bless them. Here they are. There's a leper in 8-2, Peter's wife's mother in 8:14. There was 11 apostles in 10:2. You can go through Joseph of Arimathea, 27:57. There were 47 total people blessed in Matthew's Gospel on 23 occasions. If we look at Mark, 3 were blessed on 3 occasions. In Luke, 94 were blessed on 14 occasions. There was one instance with the 70 disciples in 10:1 of Luke, and 10 lepers in 17:12. So you had a lot blessed there. In John, there were 8 occasions and 9 people blessed. And if you add them all up, the total number of people blessed in the Gospels, 153. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what come down to it, what is the reason of 153? I don't think it's the number of fish in the Sea of Galilee. I don't think it's the number of countries on earth at the time. You know what? He was specific in telling us how many fish there were. You know why? Because every fish matters to God. And none of them are getting away. None of them come out of a broken net. We're in a new creation. And he's gathering in the fish on his right. And each fish matters. That's why he had them count them. Or that's why they were counted. All right. Before we go here, I want to give you, we haven't had a video for a while. Sorry. But we've been building a new studio from scratch. And I'm going to give you a sneak preview of this. Here's our new map behind. We're still under construction. There's no flooring in there right yet. And you can see the concrete. But we're working on it, and soon we will have a new studio for filming. So to God be the honor, to God be the glory, to God be the praise. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Wait! We have a bonus. I've shown you the Hebrew alphabet. You know about the gematria values. And I've told you that there are 5 letters that have different shapes if they, at the end of a word, the sophete or final forms. Okay? You can see that example in Genesis 1:1. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim. Mayim has 2 M's, 2 mems. There's the regular mem, and then because it ends in a mem, it has a different form. And the last word, haaretz, that last letter is a tzadi. So they have to use the sophete form of tzadi. All right? So, and here's the regular gematria values, 1 through 10, 10 through 100, 100 to 400. And here are the ordinate values, just 1 through 22. The ordinate values also have values. The sophete values have an ordinate value. The final Kof then becomes 23, because the alphabet goes 1 to 22. 23, 24, 25, 6, and 27 for the final tzadi. Not rocket science, right? Okay. Let's look at Abraham. Abraham's name, Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Resh 20, Hey is 5, and Mem Sophit is 24. We're using ordinate values here. Abraham's name adds up to 52. Let's park that right up here. And Abraham, we know, was married to Sarah, and here's her value, this ordinate value. Shin is 21, Resh 20, and Hey is 5. Her ordinate value adds up to 46. Together they have Yitzhak, and Yitzhak is 55, 10, 18, 8, and 19. All right, so this is a nice family unit, father, mother, and son, and they add up to, wow, 153. How about that? Ha, very cool. What a coincidence. Of course, there is no coincidence or Hebrew word for coincidence in the Bible. You know, I do see a father, son, mother picture here. Okay, there's a family. That's very cool. Abraham, by the way, remember, he was with another woman prior. Remember, Sarah couldn't give birth because she was old, and so she said, had him sleep with her handmaid, maiden, Hagar. Hagar adds up, by the way, to 28 if you use the ordinate value. Hey 5, Gimel 3, Resh 20. And they had a son, this is Abraham's first son. His name was, anyone? Bueller? Ishmael. Ishmael adds up to 73. But also we have this here family structure. We have a father and a mother and a son, and they add up to, no, say it isn't so. They also add up to 153. Wow, I'll drink to that. Okay. All right, remember, I see again here, father, son, mother. Yeah, that's nice. And by the way, the Hebrew word for spirit is ruach. And ruach is a feminine word. Now, I am not saying that the Trinity is father, son, woman as the third. The spirit is, the word is a feminine word, but God's spirit, I believe, is a masculine thing. Okay, but the word used to represent it, and it does have this, and of course this is way over my pay grade, and I need to stop talking about this at all, but I do see kind of a father, son, spirit, father, son, mother parallel here a little bit, okay? A family structure. But I don't know what to do with that, and I'm not going to say anything more about it. I do know that when Sarah died, remember he sent Hagar and Ishmael away. When Sarah died, Abraham did marry again. He married Keturah, if you recall. And Keturah, her name adds up to 59 using ordinate values. And they have a son who they named Medan. And Medan adds up to 42. And if you add up those three family members, 153 again. Oh my goodness. Oh, the humanity. Oh, okay. How cool is that for your bonus? Love it. Okay. We'll talk to you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.